Ever feel like creativity is this big elusive thing? Like some folks, they just have it.
Well, get ready to unlock some secrets today as we deep dive into Creative. That's Creatief by Ewell J. Juliana.
Gotta love that authentic Dutch spelling.
Right. And here's the thing about Juliana. He's not just an author. This guy's a musician, an artist, works with youth.
Oh, and let's not forget the whole philosophy thing. He founded the internal Black Star philosophy, which we'll definitely unpack later.
Exactly. It's like layers of cool. But I gotta admit, when I first saw he works with multi-problem families, I thought, okay, how does that connect to creativity?
I had the same thought. You don't often see those worlds collide. Speaks to a unique perspective, though, wouldn't you say? Totally. It makes you wonder, what insights has he gained from such challenging work that can, help the rest of us tap into our creative potential?
And he jumps right in, doesn't he? Juliana defines creative as the ability to create, enrich, and preserve.
Okay, those last two words, enrich and preserve. Those really stood out to me.
Me too. It's like he's saying true creativity isn't just about bringing something new into the world. It's about adding value, making things better, and making sure those improvements last.
It's not just a fleeting thought or a product that's forgotten, but something with real impact.
Right, exactly. And to illustrate this, he breaks creativity down into 5 distinct facets.
5. All right, hit me with number 1.
First up, we have resourcefulness. Juliana describes it as that almost MacGyver-like ability to solve problems with whatever you have at hand.
Oh, so that I can fix anything with a paperclip and some duct tape kind of energy.
Exactly. Or when you were a kid and that cardboard box became a castle, a spaceship, a whole world,
Yep.
you were tapping into resourcefulness without even realizing it.
It's true, that ability to look at what you have and see beyond its intended purpose.
And it reminds me of a story Juliana shares about a student who used discarded materials from their neighborhood to create this amazing art installation. Talk about resourcefulness.
Okay, that's pretty inspiring. What's next?
Originality. Juliana uses the example of Picasso's Cubism. Remember, it completely revolutionized how we see and interpret art. It wasn't just about painting what he saw, but reimagining the very act of seeing.
That's wild. So it's not just about being different for the sake of being different, right? It's about offering a whole new perspective.
Exactly. And that's what makes a piece of art or music or anything really truly original, isn't it? It stops you in your tracks because it's like nothing you've ever experienced before.
Okay, love it. Originality, check. What's next on our list of creative superpowers?
Imagination. This one's huge because it's that spark that allows us to create worlds that don't exist yet.
Speaking of world building, Juliana uses Tolkien and the creation of Middle-earth as an example, right?
He does, but he also makes the point that imagination isn't just for fantasy writers. It's what allows a child to turn that same cardboard box into a spaceship. It's what drives entrepreneurs, scientists, anyone who dares to ask, what if?
It's that ability to dream up new possibilities.
Ah.
Okay, what else have we got?
This one might seem obvious, but it's often overlooked. Expressiveness.
As in being able to effectively communicate your ideas.
Exactly. Juliana argues that true creativity involves effectively communicating your ideas and emotions, no matter the medium. It could be an actor captivating an audience, a writer crafting a compelling story, or even just someone explaining a complex concept in a way that's both clear and engaging.
So it's about finding the right tools and techniques to bring your inner world to life, regardless of what you're creating.
Right. And finally, we have flexibility in thinking. This one is crucial because it's about adapting, finding new paths when you hit a roadblock. Think of a teacher who changes their teaching style to better connect with students.
Or like an artist trying a new medium after hitting a creative wall.
Exactly. It's about breaking free from rigid thinking and embracing the unknown. That ability to adapt is key.
So we've got our 5 facets: resourcefulness, originality, imagination, expressiveness, and flexibility in thinking. They all feel so interconnected, don't they?
They absolutely do. It's
Yeah.
like they work together to unlock our creative potential. But Juliana doesn't stop there. He goes even deeper. He does. It's like, okay, you've got all these amazing tools, these creative superpowers, but what are you going to do with them?
Right. Having the potential for creativity and actually, creating something are 2 different things.
Exactly. And that's where intention comes in. Juliana argues it's not enough to just have that spark, that fleeting what-if moment. You have to harness it, give it direction.
Intention. That's where the book takes this really cool turn. Like, it's not just about being creative, but about consciously doing something with that creativity.
You got it. He's bridging that gap between, like, daydreaming and actually making things happen.
I like that. And the best part is, Juliana doesn't just leave us hanging with this vague idea of intention, does he?
Not at all. He gives us a framework, practical steps to actually formulate our creative intentions.
Okay, see, that's what I'm talking about. Actionable advice.
Hmm.
So what's step one on our journey to intentional creativity?
Specific and measurable goals.
So none of this, I want to be more creative stuff. Got to get granular.
Precisely. Instead of being vague, you'd say, I'm going to write for 30 minutes every morning, or I'm going to experiment with a new photography technique each week. Concrete actions.
Love it. Turns that abstract desire into like a contract with yourself.
Yes. And it's not just about what you want to achieve, but also the language you use to frame those intentions.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So how we talk about our goals matters too.
Absolutely. Juliana is big on framing those intentions positively, focusing on what you want to create, not on what you're trying to avoid.
Okay, so instead of, I don't want to be stuck in a creative rut, it's more like, I am open to new inspiration, and I am excited to try new things.
Exactly. It's subtle, but that shift in mindset can be huge.
It's like choosing to approach the creative process from a place of abundance rather than fear.
Right. Believing in your own potential. And speaking of obstacles.
Uh-oh, here come the creativity crushers.
Yeah.
We all know those roadblocks all too well. What are some of the big ones Juliana calls out?
He breaks them down into a few really relatable categories. One major one is, unsurprisingly, internal fears. Fear of failure, the pressure to be perfect.
Oh, that comparison game. It's brutal out there.
Tell me about it. But Juliana reminds us that mistakes are inevitable. In fact, they're a crucial part of the creative process.
Easier said than done sometimes, though.
For sure. But what if, instead of beating ourselves up for not being perfect, we looked at those imperfections as valuable feedback?
Ooh, I like that. Reframing failure as data. What else can trip us up on our creative journeys?
Lack of space. And I don't just mean physical space, although that can definitely be a factor, but also that feeling of not having enough time, energy, or even just mental bandwidth to be creative.
Oh, 100%. Between work, family, that never-ending social media scroll, it's easy to feel like there's just no room for creativity.
Right. But Juliana challenges us to question that assumption. He argues we don't need vast amounts of uninterrupted time to be creative. Even small pockets, carved out intentionally, can make a difference.
So even if it's just 15 minutes in the morning with a cup of coffee, that still counts.
Absolutely. It's about making those small moments count. Turning off the distractions, setting boundaries, and giving ourselves permission to prioritize creativity, even amidst the busyness.
Permission, that's key. Now, there was one more creativity crusher, right?
Yes. The dreaded stuck thinking.
Stuck thinking, we've all been there. That feeling of, like, hitting a wall, creatively speaking. What's that look like, and how do we break free?
Well, it can show up in different ways, right? Clinging to routines that aren't working anymore, being afraid to try new things. It's that feeling of stagnation, like you're just spinning your wheels.
And we've all had those moments where we're like, okay, this isn't working, but what else am I supposed to do?
Exactly. And Juliana's advice is surprisingly simple. Seek out new experiences, shake things up a bit.
So even small changes can make a difference.
Absolutely. It's about disrupting those old patterns. Take a different route to work. Try a new recipe. Pick up a book on a subject you know nothing about.
It's about bringing a little more novelty into our lives. I like that.
It's about remembering that creativity thrives on new input, new connections. And, this all ties back to something we touched on earlier, Juliana's work with the internal black star.
Right. We were going to circle back to that. For those just joining us, what's the connection between the internal black star and unlocking our creative potential?
At its core, the internal black star is about recognizing that wellspring of wisdom and power that exists within each of us.
Okay, so it's not about some external force or guru we need to find. It's about connecting with something deeper within ourselves.
Precisely. And Juliana argues that this inner wisdom is key to unlocking our creativity. Remember those internal fears and limiting beliefs we talked about? The internal black star helps us dismantle those roadblocks.
So it's about recognizing that we already have what we need. We just have to tap into it.
Exactly. It's about trusting our intuition, that inner voice that knows what we're truly capable of. And ultimately, I think that's where Juliana's definition of creative takes on this whole new meaning. It's not just about what we create externally, but also about that internal transformation.
Wow, that's pretty powerful stuff.
Yeah.
This whole deep dive has been so insightful. We've talked about the different facets of creativity, the importance of intention, those pesky creativity crushers.
And how to overcome them.
Right. And that idea of connecting with the internal black star, that inner wisdom, it's a lot to think about.
It really is. But it's also incredibly empowering.
It is. And, as we wrap up, I keep coming back to something Juliana said about our environment shaping our creativity. He really encourages us to be intentional about creating spaces, routines, even just mindsets that support our creative work.
It's about cultivating those conditions that allow creativity to flourish.
Exactly. So here's a question for all of you listening. What does your ideal creative space look like? Is it a sun-drenched studio? A cozy corner in a bustling cafe? We want to hear from you. Head over to our social media and tell us what gets those creative juices flowing for you.
I can't wait to see what everyone comes up with.
Me too.
Yeah.
It's been a joy diving into creative with you today. Until next time, keep those creative sparks flying.
And remember, your creative potential is limitless.
This has been The Deep Dive. Thanks for listening.